Hi. In this video, we will find out why America has become the only superpower in the world. 1. Concept of superpower. In this video, superpower is simply understood as the country with the greatest power, both in terms of economy, influence, and military power. 2. Why is America the only superpower in the world? According to Michael Beckley, professor of political science at Stuft University, there are reasons that make the United States the only superpower in the world as follows. The first is, the United States is leading in many ways. Closest to the United States is China. However, China still has a wealth of 3 times lower than the US. As for the military, the United States is 5 times stronger than China. That gap will take decades to close. Even if things go badly for America. Monday is, the US has many factors that help economic development in the long run. Other countries do not. Specifically, economists have shown that growth in the long run will depend on geography, demographics, and political institutions of a country. The United States has an advantage in all 3 categories. Geographically, the United States is a natural economic center and a military cannon. It is full of resources and has many economic arteries such as waterways and ports. To be controllable, compared to the rest of the world combined. In contrast, China has burned through most of its resources and is surrounded by 19 countries. Many of these countries are hostile or unstable. And 10 of them, still in dispute, have partial territorial claims with China. And Russia. Russia's problem is lots of resources. But again, there is no port for international trade. Moreover, around Russia are many neighbors belonging to the NATO bloc, who are close friends of the United States. In terms of demographics, America is a country with a large population, up to 328 million people. Has a young workforce, and most importantly, a high educational level. The workforce of the United States is the labor force, the 3rd largest, the 2nd youngest. The highest level of education, and also the highest productivity, among the great powers. And that is, the single major workforce, which will grow throughout this decade. And yet, the US also has a dynamic working environment, creating development opportunities for people around the world. And this is the promised land for many young, capable people. Therefore, the US attracts more and more talents. Otherwise, China will lose 200 million workers over the next 30 years. And an additional 300 million elderly people. Chinese workers are producing wealth per hour, 6 times less than American workers. More than 2/3 of China's workers do not need a high school education. 1/3 of China's youth, entering the workforce, have an IQ below 90. Are largely the result of conditions, malnutrition, poor care, and pollution. On political institutions. While the United States is seen as a mess. But Mr. Beckley said, China's institutions, although homogeneous, are not capable of stimulating development. A lot of brain bleeding? What about the Russian? The country has a huge nuclear arsenal, threaten its neighbors and assert its power in foreign countries in conflicts, such as in Syria. Russia threatens many U.S. interests, including threatening U.S. allies and propping up U.S. adversaries such as Iran and Syria. Including allegedly meddling in U.S. elections. Overall, Russia is still not ready for becoming a rival to usurp the U.S. superpower. Russia's military budget, 10 times smaller than that of the U.S. Russia's economy is smaller than the state of Texas. And Russia's population, it is estimated, will decrease by 30% over the next 30 years. Russia also doesn't have many powerful allies. And this country, it has to face NATO, the most powerful alliance in history, right at its border. The most worrying thing is, China and Russia will align and change the balance of power. But can that happen? The answer is, Russia and China will never form a true alliance. They have in common a 2,600-mile border, compete for influence across Europe and Asia, and arms trade to each other's enemies. So creating a powerful alliance, Russia-China, is something impossible. In the past, there were many countries which were superpowers. However, the United States is still many times stronger than those superpowers. With nearly 5% of the world's population, the United States accounted for 35% of the global total. 35% patents, and 40% spending on military compared to the whole world. It is home to nearly 600, out of nearly 2,000, most profitable companies on the planet, and 50 of the world's top 100 universities. The US has, again, 66 official allies, and is the only country able to resist major wars outside the territory. There are 587 bases, scattered across 42 countries. Historians have made a famous study. Compare the great powers over 500 years. And conclude, there has never been a power disparity like this in history. And affirm, the United States, still the greatest superpower ever. Do you agree with this analysis? Please comment below. Thank you for watching the video. Goodbye and see you again.